horrifying deathbed confessions that left families spooked. Some secrets are taken to the grave, but others escape in the final moments of life, leaving families shaken, horrified, and forever changed. Whether out of guilt, desperation for absolution, or a cruel desire to leave chaos in their wake, these deathbed confessions exposed long-buried horrors that haunted their loved ones long after their passing. Here are some of the most chilling last words ever uttered. 1. The murderer grandfather. For decades, the Thompson family believed their grandfather, Charles, was a kind and respectable man who had lived a peaceful life. But on his deathbed, he revealed a sinister past that shattered their perception of him forever. As Charles lay gasping for breath in his final moments, he suddenly grabbed his son's hand, his fingers tightening with surprising strength. His voice, raspy and weak, barely escaped his lips. "I killed a man in 1953. Buried him under the old oak tree behind our first house. Nobody ever found out." At first, his son, Daniel, thought his father was delusional. But as Charles continued, the raw emotion in his voice made it clear he was telling the truth. He admitted that the man he killed was an old acquaintance who had wronged him in a business deal. Overcome by rage after an argument, Charles struck him with a shovel, the force of the blow fracturing the man's skull instantly. Charles, realizing what he had done, panicked and buried the body under the massive oak tree, hoping the roots would keep the grave hidden forever. For years, Charles had carried this dark secret, keeping up the facade of a loving husband and father, never allowing his guilt to surface. But as his final moments loomed, the weight of his sin became unbearable. Racked with guilt, Daniel reported the confession to authorities after Charles' passing. When investigators searched the property, they uncovered human remains precisely where Charles had described. DNA confirmed the victim's identity, and the case long considered a missing persons mystery was finally closed. But for the family, the truth was unbearable. They had unknowingly lived under the roof of a murderer their entire lives. The psychological trauma haunted them, with some members seeking therapy, and others distancing themselves from the family name. The once proud Thompson legacy had been forever tainted by one horrifying act. 2. The secret family. Mary Stevenson had always known her father, Robert, as a hardworking, devoted family man. He was the type to never miss a school recital, always ensuring his children had everything they needed. But as he lay dying, he confessed that he had been living a double life. He had another wife and children in a neighboring town, an entire second family that had no idea about the first. Robert explained that during a rough patch in his marriage, he had fallen in love with another woman. He married her under a false name, convinced he could manage both lives without anyone finding out. Rather than choosing between the two, he meticulously crafted alibis and excuses, spending weekdays with one family and weekends with the other, always making sure no overlap occurred. The weight of his deception had gnawed at him for decades, but he was too deep in the lie to come clean until now. As his daughter Mary listened, she felt her world crumble. The revelation left her questioning every moment they had spent as a family. Had he truly loved them, or were they just another obligation? The betrayal ran deep, and the pain was immeasurable. After his death, Mary sought out her father's second family, only to find that they too were shattered by the confession. His other children, who had idolized him just as she had, were blindsided by the truth. The two families, once strangers, now shared a painful bond forged by betrayal. Tensions ran high, with some members wanting to sever ties completely, while others sought to piece together a fragmented past. Legal battles over inheritance and property only deepened the rift, leaving wounds that would take years to heal. The man they had all once adored had, in the end, left them nothing but pain. 3. The child who wasn't theirs. Margaret Evans had always believed she was the biological daughter of her loving parents, but in her mother's dying moments, she learned the horrifying truth: she had been stolen as a baby. Her mother, Eleanor, had struggled with infertility, enduring years of failed attempts to conceive. Then, one day in the 1960s, she made a desperate decision that would shape Margaret's entire existence. While visiting a hospital, Eleanor overheard the cries of a newborn in an unattended bassinet. Overcome with longing and despair, she took the infant and walked out without a second glance. The guilt, she confessed, had haunted her every single day since. As her breathing became ragged, Eleanor tearfully whispered, "You weren't mine to keep. I took you. I'm sorry." Margaret, overwhelmed, was left questioning her entire identity. Who were her real parents? Had they searched for her all these years? After Eleanor's death, Margaret embarked on a painful journey to uncover the truth. With the help of DNA testing and missing person reports, she eventually located her biological family, an elderly couple who had spent decades grieving the loss of their kidnapped infant. The reunion was bittersweet. While her biological family welcomed her with open arms, the betrayal of the woman she had known as mother haunted Margaret for the rest of her life. She struggled with conflicting emotions, grateful for the love she had received, yet resentful of the deception that had robbed her of her true identity. She was left with the agonizing task of rebuilding relationships with her newfound family while mourning the loss of the life she thought she knew. 4. The disappearance of a brother. When George Daniels fell gravely ill, his sister, Linda, sat by his side, expecting to share tender goodbyes. Instead, George dropped a bombshell that made her blood run cold. "I killed him. Our brother, Sam. He didn't run away. I buried him in the woods behind the house." Sam had disappeared as a teenager, and the family had spent years searching, assuming he had left home on his own accord. In reality, George and Sam had gotten into a violent altercation. A single punch had sent Sam tumbling down the stairs, snapping his neck. Panicked, George buried the body and concocted the story that Sam had run away. Linda, horrified, alerted the authorities. A search of the property confirmed George's confession. Sam's remains were recovered decades later. The revelation tore the family apart, leaving them questioning how they had lived alongside a killer without ever suspecting a thing. Linda, racked with guilt for never questioning Sam's disappearance, sought therapy to cope with the harrowing truth. The town, once sympathetic toward the Daniels family for their missing brother, now viewed them with suspicion and whispers, as if the crime itself had tainted their very existence. Deathbed confessions can bring closure or destruction, offering final truths that upend everything families once believed. While some seek redemption in their last moments, others seem to confess simply to unburden themselves, leaving their loved ones to wrestle with the weight of their sins. These stories serve as haunting reminders that even those closest to us may be hiding unfathomable secrets, waiting until the very end to reveal the darkness that had plagued them all their lives. Families are often left to pick up the pieces, burdened with not just the truth, but the irreversible consequences of a lifetime of lies and hidden horrors. I hope you found the details of this story as fascinating and unsettling as I did. You, mysterious, curious, intellectual, disturbed, beautiful people. My name is Penny Flick, with Kreep-ish. I look forward to sharing more of these stories that captivate and intrigue our minds, which can challenge our way of thinking. Comment on your thoughts below as I continue to uncover the mysteries of our history, true crime, paranormal, conspiracy, and cringe-worthy, creepy content. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember that the truth is often stranger than fiction.